So as I turn the podium over to Senator Cantwell, let me just say that it is her leadership and of her colleagues of putting together this legislation to have this discussion on a national level, but it is critical as Spokane continues their forefront and really proactive approach in this area to make sure that this type of commerce, this type of transportation in our community is at the safest levels. And I want to thank the Senator and her colleagues again for her leadership in continuing this legacy like we saw at Senator Magnuson some 40 years ago. So with that, Senator, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Well, thank you, Mayor. It's great to be in Spokane this morning, and it's great to see so many Spokanites here. It's great to be here with the fire department, and I want to say a special thanks to Council President Ben Stuckert, who I'm going to introduce in a few minutes. But Spokane Chief Bobby Williams and Spokane Valley Deputy Chief Andy Hale, and Spokane Fire Chief Williams, thank you all for being here today and being here to discuss such important legislation. We know that every day a couple of trains pass through Spokane, and we know that it comes right through the heart of this city. In fact, there are trains that pass right behind this fire station. Over the past 5 years, there has been a 4,000% increase in the number of trains on the tracks in our nation, and we are in the midst of a boom in domestic energy production. There have been 4 derailments in North America involving crude oil just since February. And according to the U.S. Department of Transportation, we are estimated to see another 6 before the end of this year. Last week, I introduced legislation to enact strong new safety standards for these oil trains, and my legislation would protect cities like Spokane from the types of fiery derailments that we've seen in places like North Dakota and Illinois and West Virginia. These steps in the legislation are very important. First, it ensures that volatility of oil inside the tank car is monitored and regulated to reduce the risk of explosions. I don't know what you gentlemen have seen in these horrific events, but I've talked to first responders in other parts of the country who said to me, we didn't really have anything to do but to stand there and let it burn for days. Secondly, we are taking older cars off the tracks to ensure that new, safer models are deployed. And third, it would require rail infrastructure that is more frequently inspected and more properly maintained. It would also provide resources for our first responders to help train them so that they have the tools they need to help protect our citizens. I have led a coalition of senators to the Appropriations Transportation Energy Fund saying we need to support oil route safety management, inspection, and tank car specialists at the Federal Railroad Administration. So today we're here to talk about the next steps as we move forward, and Council President Stuckert will tell you about the action the City Council is planning this week to help get legislation at the local level as well. To make sure that we are all saying the same thing, we want to see this legislation move through Congress as quickly as possible. In Canada, nearly 2 years ago, an oil train derailed, ensuing with an explosion that cost 47 people their lives. That blast zone was a half-mile radius. If that happened here in Spokane, the effects would be catastrophic, and that's why we want to prevent those kinds of things from happening. Today, railroads remain a symbol of economic development, and we have agricultural products that we want to make sure reach their markets. So, we know that we need to address this issue. In the next several years, people are estimating that the 2 to 3 trains that we see a day now could increase to as many as 16 trains per day in the future. So Spokane is not alone. These trains travel through the Tri-Cities, through Vancouver, through Tacoma, through Seattle, up through Everett. And so practically every major metropolitan city in our state is affected by this. So that's why we want first responders and others to have the help that they need to help address this, and we want to see regulation of these trains immediately. So I thank everyone for being here today, and I hope that we can all work together to make sure that this legislation gets passed. And with that, I'll turn it over to Council Chairman Ben Stuckert.